Emily Sanchez, 26, is an airport dispatcher who was left alone on the night shift when everything went haywire. She is not a soldier, a medic, or a sniper. She is just a girl who works in the control tower. But it is she who will determine the fate of the passengers on the last plane stuck on the runway. Emily was the only one left on duty. Her colleague Jason went home with a fever, her boss flew to Washington, and the rest of the staff was busy with flight delays due to the strange situation in the big cities. There are no planes in the sky. The radar screen is empty. The radio is silent. Only one flight remains, BFC 201, a charter plane from Los Angeles that was supposed to land, but something is keeping it in the air. Emily was drinking cold coffee when she received a message from the airline. BFC 201 is requesting an emergency landing. One of the passengers is behaving inappropriately. There are injured people on board. Medical assistance is needed. She pressed the communication button. BFC 201, take off on runway 2R. We have a medical team ready. What happened? He is biting people. They are getting up, even after death. Static on the radio. Emily froze. Repeat, I can't hear you. He's not. It's not human. And then, silence. While she called security and the ambulance dispatchers, she could already see the plane coming in for landing from the tower windows. Slowly, crookedly, as if the pilot wasn't quite conscious. Emily didn't know yet. The airport would become a trap. And gate number 6, the only chance for survival. The BFC 201 plane touched down heavily on the runway. One of the front landing gears skidded and the fuselage swayed, but the plane leveled out and rolled to a stop at gate 6. There were no fire crews around, no ambulances, no border guards, only the night. Emily stood in the tower, holding the microphone in her trembling hand. BFC 201, you are at the parking lot. The control tower has no visual contact with the crew. Repeat, what happened? Silence. Then, a short wheeze, a rustle, and a weak voice. Don't open. God, don't open the door. Emily descended from the tower. The runway was empty. One guard approached the plane with a technician, raised the ladder, and knocked. The door opened automatically. Silence. No passengers at the exit. The technician went in first. And almost immediately, a scream. A moan. The sound of blood splattering. The guard took out his baton, but something burst out of the doorway and lunged at him like a rabid wolf. Emily saw everything through the external surveillance camera. A human figure, half naked, burned, but moving with astonishing speed. She wasn't running. She was hunting. Security. Code black at gate 6. I repeat, do not enter the door. Emily shouted into the radio, but no one answered. And then she realized there was almost no one left at the airport. Only a few night workers. Her. And whatever had come out of the plane. On the video, from inside the plane, she saw movement. Shadows in the aisle. Hands tearing at the walls. And the silhouette of a pilot, half his face missing, slowly approaching the window. A new message appeared in the system. Attention, quarantine protocol activated. All exits from the terminal will be closed in 2 minutes. Emily realized one thing. She was trapped, and the plane was not the last to arrive that night. The BFC 201 touched down heavily on the runway. One of the front landing gears skidded and the fuselage swayed, but the plane leveled out and rolled to a stop at gate 6. There were no fire crews around, no ambulances, no border guards, only the night. Emily stood in the tower, holding the microphone in her trembling hand. BFC 201, you are parked. The control tower has no visual contact with the crew. Repeat, what happened? Silence. Then, a short wheeze, a rustle, and a weak voice. Don't open. God, don't open the door. Emily descended from the tower. The runway is empty. One security guard approached the plane with a technician, raised the ladder, and knocked. The door opened automatically. Silence. No passengers at the exit. The technician went in first. And almost immediately, a scream. A moan. The sound of blood splattering. The guard took out his baton, but something burst out of the doorway and lunged at him like a rabid wolf. Emily saw everything through the external surveillance camera. A human figure, half naked, burned, but moving with astonishing speed. It wasn't running. It was hunting. Security. Code black at gate number 6. I repeat, do not enter the door. Emily shouted into the radio, but no one answered. And then she realized there was almost no one left at the airport, just a few night workers, her, and whatever had come out of the plane. On the video, from inside the plane, she saw movement, shadows in the aisle, hands tearing at the walls, and a silhouette in a pilot's uniform, half of its face missing, slowly approaching the window. A new message appeared in the system. Attention, quarantine protocol activated. All exits from the terminal will be closed in 2 minutes. Emily realized one thing. She was trapped, and the plane wasn't the last thing to arrive that night. The main entrances were blocked. The alarm was silent. There was no internet connection. Radio communication was unstable. Emily stood in an empty control room overlooking the plane. Her eyes were glued to the CCTV monitor. Next to her on the floor lay the lifeless, torn body of a security guard. The camera flickered, but one thing was clear. The door to the plane was open, and figures that were no longer human peered out of the darkness of the cabin. She pressed the microphone to her lips. If anyone can hear me, this is Riverside Control. We have an emergency situation. I repeat, do not approach BFC 201. Its passengers are infected, and they have already exited. Emily jumped up. While the system was still working, she locked all the internal doors leading from the boarding area to the central terminal. She entered the codes manually. She held the bolt with her fingers when the mechanism jammed. There were loud bangs on the ventilation system above. The metal rang as if someone were climbing on it from the inside. This is a joke. It's just a terrible joke, she whispered. But she no longer believed it. Deep inside the terminal, a flashlight flashed. Emily instantly pointed her camera. 2 figures in technical uniforms. Survivors. She turned on the internal loudspeaker. You? Stop. This is Emily Sanchez. I can see you. Do not go to gate 6. You have to bypass the beta zone. It's still safe there. One of them replied. We were looking for the medical center. Some creature attacked Marco there. We didn't know where to go. I'll guide you. Stay close to the central pillar. And don't stop. She began to remotely open the way for them. Doors, airlocks, emergency corridors. Something inside her switched. She was no longer panicking. She was in control. And then, one of the monitors went blank. Another one was flickering. And then, a frame from the camera above gate number 6. The dead had already reached the terminal exit. They're inside, Emily whispered. They're moving through the corridors. And I'm here alone. But now she knew. She had eyes. She had locks. And she had 2 living people who could still be helped. And she wasn't going to give up. The monitors were static. The signal from most of the internal cameras was gone. Only a few were still broadcasting images. And one of them showed 2 men running through a narrow tunnel between the luggage compartments. They were breathing heavily, like hunted dogs. Emily studied the route, tracked their movements, and stopped at an important point. A sliding metal grate. She could control it, but she would only open it at the right moment. Otherwise, those hunting in the darkness would slip through with the people. She pressed the button on her radio. Max, Lewis, listen. There's a grate ahead. I'll open it for only 10 seconds. Behind it is an emergency door to the control section. If you don't make it in time, it will close again. Got it, the older one croaked through clenched teeth. The monitor flickered. There was movement in the background. Shadows. Something was crawling along the walls of the tunnel. And then the camera captured a skinless hand clinging to the ceiling. Emily pressed open without hesitation. Run, damn it. Max jumped through first. Lewis stumbled, and right behind him, a corpse crawled out, its eye gouged out, and its head hanging by a shred of muscle. Emily waited. 2 more seconds. Close. Lewis slipped through, but his foot remained on the other side. The grate closed with a crunch. Lewis screamed, fell, reached out. Max rushed to him. Emily saw everything. Her hands were shaking. She got up and ran from the tower. Leaving them meant becoming just a voice on the radio. And she was alive. Emily ran to the emergency entrance where Max and Lewis were lying. The latter had lost his leg and was bleeding profusely. Max was trying to drag him, swearing and crying. Damn it, we made it. You're the dispatcher, right? Max gasped. Yes, but right now, I'm your last medic. And we're not stopping here. She took the belt from his waist and tightened the tourniquet while Lewis howled. Max didn't take his eyes off her. What's next? Will they find us? Emily turned to the map on her tablet. She looked at the evacuation route and said, No, we'll find the way out ourselves. But we need to get to the cargo hangar. There may be transportation there. For the first time that night, she was not alone. And now she was leading others. Emily, Max, and the wounded Lewis, who had lost his leg, moved slowly through the darkened corridors. The electricity was disappearing in some sectors. The power line was failing. Emily's flashlight was flickering. The battery was dying. The corridors were silent, but not dead. They constantly heard sounds. The scraping of someone scratching the walls. Footsteps on metal. Muffled, trembling moans. How much further? Max asked, carrying Lewis on his shoulder. Just through the service passage. If we're lucky, we'll find something with wheels in the cargo hangar. They emerged onto a concrete walkway. The huge metal gates of hangar number 3 were in front of them. And suddenly, noise. Loud, mechanical, alive. Someone was already there. Emily crouched down, shone her flashlight through the crack, and saw 2 airport employees dragging something toward a service pickup truck. One was wounded, the other was yelling at him. Nearby, a body in a vest was moving. Wait, she whispered. It's a trap. They don't know that he's already changed. Max stood up, raised his rifle, and prepared to act. No, we can't leave them. But if he's infected, give me 30 seconds, Emily said. I'll distract them. You go around. She threw the keys from the toolbox, and they clattered against the wall. At that moment, the dead man lying near the pickup truck jumped to his feet and lunged at the wounded man. Another worker screamed. Max rushed into the hangar and smashed the skull with the pipe, but it was too late. The wounded man was already dead. The keys were left in the pickup truck. And also, 1 canister of fuel. A miracle. We'll take him with us, said Max, referring to the living worker. But we have to load Lewis first. He's bleeding to death. Emily helped load the wounded. Then a signal came over the radio. This is the northern security sector. If anyone can hear us, we're barricaded in the food warehouse. There are 5 of us. We can hold out for another 20 minutes. Emily looked at the map. The warehouse was less than 2 miles away. Max looked at her. You're in charge. It's your decision. She turned the key in the ignition. The pickup started. The headlights came on. Outside, it was night. Dark, but now manageable. Let's go. We're not leaving anyone behind. We're not dead yet. The pickup's headlights cut through the fog that hung over the runway. Emily drove, gripping the steering wheel so tightly that her knuckles turned white. In the back seat were Lewis, unconscious, and 2 new passengers they had picked up in the hangar. The air was already thick with the smell of decay, smoke, and dampness, like a burned-out basement. The world had changed even in those 2 hours. I see it, Max exclaimed. Ahead was a windowless concrete building with a closed canopy and the words Supply Zone 4 written on it. An emergency light flashed on the wall. Next to it was a broken cargo cart. Emily stopped. Everyone listened. Silence. Silence. And, knock. Someone was banging on the inner door. It's them, said the second man from the hangar. They may still be alive. Max approached the door. No false heroes. I'll open it. You cover me, he said to Emily. She pointed the gun she was holding in her jacket pocket from the technical department. Heavy. Loaded. She had never fired it before. The door creaked. 5 people burst out of the darkness, 2 in catering uniforms, 1 security guard, a female mechanic, and a wounded woman with a walkie-talkie in her hand. We thought you weren't coming, the girl shouted. Quick, get in the car, Emily ordered. Everyone barricaded themselves in the pickup truck. For a second, there was silence. Then someone whispered from behind. Who's sitting in the back? One of the newcomers was in uniform, but moving strangely. He was muttering something. He didn't answer. And then Emily saw. His fingers were blue. And there was blood on his neck. Stop. He's infected. Everyone panicked. Max grabbed a pipe. Someone grabbed a first aid kit. The suspect started screaming inhumanly. Emily didn't think. She fired twice. A dull thud. The body fell. A ringing in her ears from the shot. And silence. Her hands were shaking. Max silently removed the body from the car. Is this your first time shooting? He whispered. Emily didn't answer. She just started the pickup again. Now there were 10 of them. 1 was dead, but 9 were still alive. And she felt it. They were united by something more than fear. They weren't led by an army or a plan, but by an ordinary dispatcher who simply didn't give up. The wheels of the pickup truck clattered on the rain-soaked concrete. Inside, there was silence. Everyone was going through their own thing. Emily, the first shot in her life. Max, his brother's death in the hospital. Louis, the loss of his leg. And the rest, the loss of their whole world. But a choice awaited them. The base generator is in the southern part. If we turn it on, we can activate a high-power radio signal. Emily explained, looking at the airport map on her tablet. But there's only one way to get there. The underground communication gallery. We're going underground again? After everything? Someone asked from behind. Yes. It's safer there than above ground. But if something has gotten in there too, we'll be trapped. They stopped the pickup truck near the ventilation hatch. Max, Emily, and 2 volunteers went down first. The others stayed behind to guard the wounded. Underground, there was a narrow concrete corridor with emergency lights that barely flickered. The walls were covered with mold. The air was damp, with the smell of burnt wires. Do we have a plan B? Max whispered when they heard footsteps echoing ahead. Yes. Don't die. At the fork in the tunnels, someone had stuck a note. They are below. Do not open the service block. They can hear noise. Emily stopped. She looked at Max. We're going on. Be quiet. And if something goes wrong, you go back and lead the people yourself. You're not a sergeant. Why are you doing this? He asked. Because this time, no one will tell us that we are just statistics. We are still alive, and we will make sure that people know about us. The first door. The electrical room. They turned on the lights. Inside, there were only 2 dead technicians, decomposed over time, uninfected. Owen pressed the main switch. A loud click. The light above flickered, and the large transmitter on the tower began to work. The signal went up into the sky, and in the north, somewhere in the mountains, the military received their first message from Riverside. We are alive. We have wounded. We are fighting. We await a response. The generator roared. Yellow light flooded the tunnel, and with it came a sound. Loud, metallic, electric. From the depths of the passageway, where they had not gone, the first blows rang out. A drumbeat, as if someone, or something, was scratching the concrete wall from the inside. They're here, whispered one of the technicians, clutching a wrench in his hand. Max removed the chain from the emergency exit door. Back to the pickup. Quickly. But Emily stayed. She stared at the panel in front of her, where a new message flashed. Signal sent. Response, none. We sent it. But no one is responding, she said calmly, and only then did she realize. Even if someone heard it, they wouldn't be able to get here in time. At that moment, something cracked in the ventilation pipe above her head. and a body fell from it. A woman in an airline uniform. Her jaw was open. Her eyes were rolled back. And she was moving. Max screamed. One of the technicians kicked her away, but she grabbed his calf with her teeth. Scream. Groaning. Shot. Emily fired a second shot in her life, straight to the head. Without hesitation, the bullet hit its target. The body fell silently, and everyone froze. Take him away, she commanded. To the pickup truck, if we still have time. They raced back. Behind them, rustling, footsteps, and something else. Not running, not stomping, but hunting. The sound made by a body that no longer belongs to itself, but still remembers how to chase. At the turn to the exit below, a human voice was heard on the radio. This is Major Wilkes, National Guard. We received your signal. We are moving towards you. 15 minutes to the entry point. Hold on. Max looked at Emily. Do you hear that? We're not alone. Emily didn't stop. They're coming. But we're still alone. Another 15 minutes is a lifetime. Or death. They jumped out of the tunnel. Above them were the first pale blue shades of the sky. Dawn was breaking, but the night had not yet let them go. The air still smelled of kerosene, wet concrete, and blood. The pickup truck roared down the straight road, its headlights cutting through the fog, and behind it was a black, living mass of running bodies. They ran as if they had a goal. But it wasn't a goal, it was an insatiable thirst. How much longer? Shouted one of the passengers, holding a wounded man. Where are they? Hang in there, replied Max. They said 15 minutes. We still have 7. Emily was driving the car. Her hair was wet with sweat. Her eyes were red from tension. She wasn't a driver. She wasn't a soldier. She wasn't a hero. But she was needed. And she was alive. Suddenly, there was a loud bang. The pickup truck shook. One of the tires had been punctured. The car skidded. Everyone get out. Emily shouted. Everyone jumped out toward an old hangar on the side of the road. On the left were dozens of dead bodies approaching. On the right was the open gate of hangar number 7, where old equipment was stored. Inside, there was silence. They hid in the concrete box, barricading the entrance with boxes and shelves. Lewis was no longer responding. His artery was slowly stopping. He won't make it if we wait much longer, whispered the female mechanic. And then, a voice on the radio. This is Major Wilkes. We're on the perimeter. We see destroyed equipment on the southern flank. Signal flare, urgent. Emily looked up at the sky. A gray horizon. The first rays of light. And a chance. She took the last flare out of her pocket, the emergency one. The one that had once been given out as a souvenir from training. She fired it. PSSSSHHHHHH. A burning line of light shot up into the sky, and the dead saw it, and they went for it. All of them. They're coming here, Max whispered. It's a trap. But now they'll definitely see us, Emily replied, her eyes shining with determination. Another rocket fell from the sky, a green one. The sound of helicopter blades came from the east. And a voice, right on the radio. Ground team, stay where you are. We see you. We're holding the evacuation zone. Don't move. And the dead were already breathing nearby. The last 2 minutes could have been the last in their lives. The helicopter shone powerful spotlights, dispelling the twilight. Its rotors created a hum that drowned out even the roar of the zombies. Stay calm. The commander's voice sounded clear and confident over the radio. We're evacuating you. Now. Emily grabbed the wounded Lewis, while Max covered everyone, firing at the crowd of dead people rushing toward the hangar. Give them time, he shouted. They're close. Powerful searchlights illuminated the battlefield, and soldiers with machine guns were stationed around the hangar. The zombies couldn't get any closer. In the light, they were easy targets. Get up. The commander gestured to Emily and her group. She, along with the wounded Lewis and the rest, quickly climbed the helicopter's ladder. Max was the last to jump into the cabin, as several undead were already beginning to break through below. Replace the shots, he shouted, closing the door. The helicopter took off sharply, leaving behind the angry undead, who were wheezing and storming the hangar. We're alive, Emily whispered, looking out the window at the sunny sunrise. For the first time in a long time, she felt that life goes on.